Hello. In this video, we are going to be talking about a very popular 11 plus verbal reasoning activity called word analogies. Before we look at those question types, let's first talk about word relationships. This means how can two words relate to each other? And there are many ways that two words can relate to each other. Too many to mention in one video, but what we will do is look at some of the more popular ways that two words can relate to each other. Let's start off by looking at synonyms. Synonyms is when two words mean near enough the same thing. Sometimes they mean exactly the same thing. So if we look at the word big, some synonyms for the word big would be large, huge, and massive. That's because large, huge, and massive have a very similar meaning to the word big. Another way that words can relate to each other is through antonyms. Antonyms is a word that means the opposite of a word. So if we look at the word big again, some of its antonyms would include small, tiny, and minute. So small, tiny, and minute are antonyms of the word big. Another way that words can relate is through function. In other words, we can talk about how words relate to another word by describing that word and how it acts. For example, a hammer can bash things, a hammer can smash things, a hammer can hit things. All of these words, bash, smash, and hit, they describe the function of a hammer. And finally, we can look at something called definition. We can define what the word hammer is or what it's used for. For example, hammer is a tool, hammer is an object, hammer is a decorating device. So as you can see, there are many ways that words can relate to each other. And what we're going to do in this video is practice some of these analogy questions. So if we look at the first question, it says large is to minute as smooth is to, and we must select from the following: touch, surface, ice cream, and rough. Now, if we think about how large relates to minute, large and minute are antonyms. Minute means the opposite of large. Large is usually something quite big or quite massive, and minute is something that's quite small. So they are antonyms. So in order to get my answer, I must find an antonym of smooth. So therefore, the correct answer for this question would be rough. Let's look at another question. Trumpet is to blow as light is to bright, switch, heavy, and bulb. So let's explore how the words trumpet and blow relate to each other. Well, I know in order to get the trumpet to do what I want it to do, which is to make a sound, I need to blow it. In other words, blow helps get the most out of the trumpet. To blow it gets the sound out of the trumpet. So in order to find the answer to this question, I need to figure out how would I get a light to work? Which one of the options below would get the light to work? And of course, the answer would be switch. I need to use a switch to get the light to work, and I need to blow to get the trumpet to work. Okay, now that I've spoken through a couple, if you can have a look at this question and see if you can figure out what the answer might be, but be very careful because the question asks us to find the missing word. And if we look at the question, it says heat is to sweat as cold is to. Now, all of the red words, all of the options, they relate to the word cold in some way. So don't just pick any one. Don't just think that it must be one that's closely related to cold. It's got to relate in a very particular way. So remember, if you need reminding, rewind the video and remind yourself of how we answered the first two, and then apply the same logic to this question. Thank you very much for watching.